Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday. Yeah, I'm confused and scatterbrained. I'm not doing too well. I don't know if it's the GLP-1 or what. Anyway, yesterday I went up to see my mother. She has come down twice last week to, one to bring me my meds and the other one to bring the registration and, whatnot. My mail that comes up there down. She had to come down here to buy paint. She's painting her sheds. Where do they get this energy from? I don't fucking have it. And she completely understands. She's like, I get it. I said I did like almost 70 hours, and as soon as I have time off, I'm a fucking like couch potato. I don't have any energy to get up and do anything. I have to literally force myself to go mow the grass. It's just fucking insane. I remember when I was young and I was, military, hitting the gym 3 times a day, and then I was still finding time to exercise my hobbies. I was sewing. I used to make my own clothes. They were charging like God knows how much in, the mall for these little wraparound skirt things that were in style. I found a pattern. I made myself a bunch of them. And how to sew, right? You see me do it. Anyway, so, while I was up there visiting, she had asked me if, the in-laws had, mentioned anything in regards to a situation that they got going on. And first of all, no. And I said, no, they didn't. And it's not my conversation to have with them. If they wanted to talk to me about it, they would. I did talk to my daughter in regards, and, because sometimes it's not your story to tell. And so my daughter was, she was kind of emotional about it. The situation that had come up. She needed to talk to somebody, and so she chose to talk to, my older sister, the one who basically raised her from the time she was 3. And I asked her, so why did you do that? She goes, well, you were always at work. I said, but my phone is always on when, from like 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And I do have earbuds. And if you were to call me and you need to talk about something of that regard, yeah, I am all ears, and I do have a very diplomatic perception regarding situations. So anyway, the information that she had talked to my sister in confidence somehow managed to get to my mother, and my mother passed this information along to me. And I'm like, why the fuck are you telling me all this? Right? Nothing against, my mom, because, it wasn't like she pried the information out. It was just the indecency of the information getting back to me in the way in which it did. And it really, was not any of my business, but now that they made it my business, I'm, so did not bring it up to the in-laws. I brought it to my daughter and explained to her. I was like, yeah, your grandmother told me. I was like, how do you think she found out? And her perception of things is this, and this. And I said, and this is why. yeah, don't talk to certain people in this family. She's like, now I see your point. I was like, yeah, you just don't. Like, me and my older sister, the one that I had seen in, Colorado, because I have two older sisters. The one I visited, she's, yeah, that's why I don't fucking talk to nobody about nothing. She had divulged to me, the first 5 years of her and her fiance's relationship was, toxic and crazy. And a lot of it was because he had a really kind of fucked up job. And as soon as he was off work, he'd go tinker in his garage and he'd start drinking. And by the time she got home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd already be shit-faced. Because he was bored. Or lonely. Or, whatever, right? Since, God, it was like the 9-year mark. They've been together for a long time. He quit drinking. He quit smoking. She always wanted him to quit smoking. The drinking was kind of like, let's get you quitting smoking first and see if we can get you to quit drinking, after. Maybe you'll have to do them both together. Who knows? But anyway, she divulged to me, and I was like, yeah, I always knew y'all were, a little bit off and on for a while there. But, baby steps, learning phase, figuring each other out, that kind of shit. Get it. I get it. So anyway, her and I were talking, and she's like, yeah, this is why I don't talk to nobody about nothing. I was like, yeah, because it's crazy. If you go into any kind of sort of detail, it fucking gets back, And so the drama that's going on that side of the, the world, I had discussed it with my daughter in regards to, yeah, if you don't want people to know what the fuck is going on, or you don't want people talking about it without your presence there to clarify and shit like that, you don't talk about it. Or you talk about it to people who can give you a little bit of clarity. The individual that you chose to talk about it to doesn't have any experience in that area of life to provide any kind of rational input or diplomatic opinion. I said, because you got two situations kind of enmeshed into, one incident, and now it's turned into, fucking soup sandwich kind of thing. Which consequently, when I said, yeah, I just discussed it, with my daughter, I didn't, it's not my story to tell. It's not my, I'm not, expert, but I got a lot more experience in that kind of situation than most people do. But just clarifying to her that, this is shit that happens. And don't make their problems your problems. Don't absorb that situation or fear that it's going to happen to you. Just, go with it. This happened because everybody's different. And this is, this person is not your husband. This person is not you, And when one of the biggest issues outside of everything else, within this soup sandwich of drama was I'm gonna kind of divulge, but not to like discredit anybody, but or put a an ugliness to the situation, but they are LDS. they're generational LDS. And hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Ugh. It's actually quite chilly in here because I have the AC down, because it's probably going to be 110, and I kind of need to pregame because by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon it'll be about 80 in here. Welcome to the South. Anywho, so they one of the family members has decided that they're going to leave the church. And, there's, separation, marriage, fall apart, shit like this, one of their family members. And, the in-laws, the parents, they are, to be expected, very upset with the situation. However, given the information after I had talked to my daughter and listened to everything, they are not shell-shocked about what has happened. It's kind of like they knew that individual was a little flaky and flighty and, worldly, and that on the grounds of emotional stability, he was kind of like riding the fence, right? So, having that discussion and, whatever with my daughter, I said this, is it him losing interest in the church that has caused the separation, or is it him losing interest in the relationship that caused the separation? Or is it a combination of the both? One basically led to the other, or vice versa. That kind of thing. So after discussing that kind of stuff with my daughter, and she was like, yeah, we're really more concerned about his mental health. And I was like, yeah, you should be. Because, anybody with any kind of common sense would not make those type of choices. It just, given situation. I mean, and she's like, yeah, I see what you mean. And it's like, financially, he's basically, he's fucked himself, right? So anyway, I get back home. My mom asked, did they talk about it? No, they didn't. And it's not my story or, anything within my realm of expertise. I mean, I am experienced. I've dealt with shit storm relationships. But, if they really wanted me to know or talk about it, they would have brought it up, and I wasn't about to bring it up. So it's none of my business. And I'll talk about it to the source, where it came from. My mom was like, oh, okay. I said, but if you want to know what me and her talked about, this is my perspective on it. I said, I'm going to give it to you on a perspective of things that I know and things, I don't want to, say that I'm an apostate, but there's a lot of things about the LDS doctrine and or the laws within the, that I don't like. I honestly tell you, I don't like it. I'm not asking hard questions. I know what the answers to those questions are. I'm not going to bring up a bunch of crazy, because anybody who is, LDS, they are strictly, told, do not listen to the anti-Mormon type of crap that's out on social media. And there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people who they scorn the LDS with erroneous crap. The people who have actually lived in the religion, like myself, and have our indictments against this, that, and the other thing, our reasons for not being involved 9 times out of 10 are not anything to do with what the person who doesn't know anything about that religion. Typically, the crap that comes out of their mouth, and you're looking at them like, where'd you get that from? Well, isn't that why you left? No. No. It has nothing to do with why I left. And that is not even an accurate, like if we were fact-checking information. I've literally stomped on them and said, no, that's a crock of shit. I don't. Where'd you get that from? Oh, well, I had a buddy who was, and I was like, yeah. Have you ever been to the church? Have you ever lived inside the rules, the regulations, the doctrine? Had, visiting home teaching? Had, missionaries come to the house? Have you ever, attended one of their baptismals? Have you ever sat there during testimonial day? Have you ever read the books? Well, no. I was like, well, then your matter-of-factness is offensive. I said, no, if you got questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But, my reasons for not being involved with the church as a regular active, I resigned. I resigned by proxy. Someone just, nope. Anyway, no need to excommunicate because she don't give a fuck either way kind of attitude, right? It's like, yeah, just let it go. Don't waste your time. Don't try to make an example of her because she really don't care, right? That kind of thing. My reasons inside my own experiences, having been born into that religion, for not being involved are completely different than what most put out on social media. Honest to God. There's a lot. I mean, everything that's put out on social media kind of supports my perspective, but those reasons that everyone else has are completely, like, me personally. I'll honestly say that I have never had a testimony. So there's that. Even when I was a kid, we were baptized because our mother wanted us to do it, and we basically, for fear of her, we just went ahead and did it. So it wasn't a conscientious personal decision. It was basically, yeah, and because we were afraid of her saying no, yeah, anyway. And then, she never forced us for involvement. And her involvement with it is that is entirely, that's her thing. And, bless my stepdad, because he was never supportive of any of the activities or anything. My dad, before he passed away, he would go to like those, weird, like, little relief society fundraising dinners and, things like that, cultural type of, things. And, but he couldn't stand sitting in church. And he, wasn't, presumably active. He was just wasn't his cup of tea. But anyway, he let my mother do whatever, whatever. But he had been involved with it when we were very little. My stepdad was never involved with it, and he was like, "You do you, boo boo." Basically, that is your thing. You can do whatever, but I will never be involved with that type of religion. And he was not active even on a part-time level, like accompanying her to, things of that nature. My mom is very empathetic to some of the petty situations within that religion, where she had experienced the woman that married, went and got her pastoral whatever, who married my mom and my stepdad back in 2012. She had been excommunicated from the LDS. So my mother, even though she was active, she will never speak against it. But I think she's very well aware that there's a lot of discrepancies within it. And that is not for me to put out, on blast like a lot of the anti-Mormon, sites. There's a lot of information out there. If you really don't like the LDS and you're really curious about it, there's a lot of literature out there. There's a lot of books from former members. One of the ones, God, that thing, he had a 10-part series on here telling the whole story of the book. I can't remember his name. But there's David Bokovoy. He was on Mormon Stories. I've seen his thing. Yeah. He's a pretty normal, cool dude. And I used to watch Mormon Stories, and there's a lot of different, and he was basically, John DeLynn had been excommunicated for pettiness. Questioning. Bringing up the question. Kind of like the CES letter. Bringing up the question. And the irrationality of the indictments against the people for asking the question is just as scathing as some of the information within the doctrine that people have questioned that they don't want to openly own, admit, or, say, yeah, we were wrong. That's kind of where, so I'm not going into detail. I'm just saying. There's a lot of people who still attend the church. They have their beliefs in regard. They don't have a testimony. They're just comfortable in that environment, and they like the way they run their services. There's a lot of people that they attend, they never pay tithe. There's other people that pay tithe religiously. They're just as discombobulated as any other form of religion out there. It's just some of their standards, and, you make rank within the church when you are able to surpass these milestones, and you get your sealings in the temple, and you get your temple recommend, and all these other little formality things, right? And it's like the poor, paternal grandmother. She's like, yeah, they told me I had a calling. I had to be part of the Relief Society planning team. And she's just loathing the assignment. And paternal grandpa is like, yeah, it's like, he's like, you're just part of the team. You don't really have to do anything. She's like, but do I gotta go? She doesn't want to go. So there's a lot of people who are active members. They are temple recommend. They're, whatever. But there's a lot of things within the formalities of the religion. They could care less. But they keep their mouths shut because they don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, delightful people. Love them to death. So I was discussing a lot of things, and me and my mother got on a talk, about, religiosity and just moral ethic and, relationships and, misgivings and things like that. And I said, have you ever seen the general conference where Ravi Zacharias actually spoke? She goes, who's that? Squeak! Squeak! So, yeah, we watched. That's what we did yesterday. So I got there, we gabbed for a little bit, we discussed drama within the circle of the family, and then we went to lunch, and then we came back, and then we watched, Ravi. I can't remember which, it was either the 2004, he did a 2004 or 2017, I think he did a 2014 talk also. So, yeah, the LDS loved Ravi. Yes, they did. He's an amazing speaker. My mom was very impressed with him. She was like, how did you find out about him? I said, just investigating different stuff, theologies and whatnot, ran across him. And, me and my friend from work who had tried to get me involved more with going to church on Sunday and things like that. And it did kind of calm me down a little bit until I got involved with psycho. And then I was like right back where I started. Wah! F word every 3 seconds. Yeah. It happens. When someone breaks your head that bad, it takes you a little while to get it back together. So, yeah, there's, I had a good visit with my mom yesterday, and it was enjoyable. But today, my brain just feels a little off. I took my bike up there, solo ride everywhere. I'd rather ride alone. I think it's, what is it? Ride Wolf or something. He was talking about he'd only been riding alone for about a month. I ride alone all the time. All of my long distance trips. That's I've got the Wyoming Tetons and stuff out there. Now my camera footage sucks. I'm not gonna deny it. But I did that just to show, yes, that I do. I travel all over the country on the bike. So I'm on the road going out during Sturgis because there's motorcycle migration. A lot of people are out riding during that time of year. Anyway, and it's kind of a little safety net for me because I'm not unfamiliar. You're going to see a lot of motorcycles. Oh, best fell again. Out during, the first week of August to about the third week of August out west because of Sturgis. So, that was one of the things. I see everybody trailering their bikes in. And I saw a short earlier said, yeah, when they say, yeah, you're going to Sturgis, you're riding to Sturgis, yeah, from the campsite where you park your trailer to the downtown area where the actual festivities are good. They most of the people that are attending there, most of them are not riding from like Daytona, Florida, from their bike and hopping it all the way across the country to get to Sturgis. It's not a full-on riding migration. Now, there's a few people that I trailed on with along the way. I met a couple of guys on my first trip out to Idaho. Yeah, we did all of Nebraska together. Yeah, until they turned off and I kept going. Up into Wyoming. Yeah, and when they turned to go up into South Dakota, I kept going on 80. That kind of thing. So yeah, I have met people who actually ride out there. Now where they're coming from, I have fucking no idea and don't care. But anyway, yeah, I don't need to go to Sturgis to get drunk and debauchery. I can do that right here in my kitchen with all of my mess. Good times. Anyway, so yeah, I had a great talk with my mom yesterday, and I think she's a little bit more aware of where I stand with the LDS religion. And I think very highly of the members. They're fantastic, loving people. I do highly recommend that, if you should ever meet them, take advice. Start a food storage, a prepper pantry, something. Get a corner of your house and stockpile to have at least a year's worth of sustenance. Shit, when COVID hit, I didn't have to go buy toilet paper. I didn't have to go buy paper towels. I had 10 packs of that shit up on shelves in the garage. So when they hoarded it, I was fine. I had enough for a year. That was good. Anyway, yeah, lessons learned. Take what you need and leave the rest. Anyway, y'all have a great week ahead. I'm about to get off here because I'm going to run out of time. And I don't want to kick over and run out of data. So, yeah, that is all I've got for today. I'm going to get another cup of coffee and play a game on my phone and chill for a little bit and try to find my brain cells. Yeah, something just isn't connecting today. But good talk. But brings you up to speed. Peace out.